Hi, I'm Marc, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views report on the politics in Asia and Oceania. Today I need to talk about Iran, because another opposition figure has been executed in Iran, and the Swedish government condemned the crime because a Swedish Iranian dissident sentenced to death has been executed now. The death sentence against Habib Charb, as what they call the leader of the terrorist group Harakat al-Nidal, was carried out on Saturday morning, according to the justice website Mizan. Charb has been detained in Iran since October 2020 after disappearing during a trip to Turkey and being tried in Tehran a month later. On December 6th, Charb was found guilty of forming and leading a rebel group called Harakat al-Nidal. The rebel group is an Arab movement fighting for the liberation of Avaz, the capital of the Iranian province of Khuzestan. He was also found guilty of the charge of corruption on earth, which carries the death penalty in Iran. He was also accused of having planned and carried out numerous terrorist operations in the province of Khuzestan as the head of Harakat al-Nidal, as the verdict said. This was confirmed by the country's Supreme Court. None of the allegations against Charb can be independently verified, though. A large Arab minority lives in the oil-rich province of Khuzestan, and its members have long complained of marginalization. Sweden's Foreign Minister Tobias Billström has condemned the execution. The death penalty is an inhuman and irreversible punishment, is what Billström wrote on Twitter. Sweden, along with the rest of the EU, condemns their use under all circumstances. Stockholm had previously contacted Tehran and demanded that the sentence not be carried out, as Billström wrote. The EU also condemned the execution. Commission Vice President Josep Borrell said in a statement, "The European Union sends its condolences to Mr. Charb's family and expresses its full solidarity with Sweden." The increasing number of EU nationals and dual EU and Iranian nationals arbitrarily detained in Iran, the restrictions on consular access of EU citizens, the denial of consular protection, and the right to a fair trial are in direct contradiction to international law. At least 16 Westerners are currently being held in Iran. Most of them also have the Iranian citizenship. In January, Iran caused international outrage with the execution of former British-Iranian politician Ali Reza Akbari, who was convicted of alleged espionage. The case is similar to that of German citizen Jamshid Sharmat, who was kidnapped on a trip to Dubai in 2020 and trafficked to Iran. He too was sentenced to death by the Islamic regime and is at risk of execution. The German-Iranian Jamshid Sharmat is threatened with immediate execution by the regime in Iran because there have been warnings about this for, as the daughter put it, 1,000 days. His daughter was born in Germany and now lives in the USA. She was brought up there in the middle of the night and found out about the impending execution. "The fact that my father is now to be executed is the result of our government's inaction," she says. The Supreme Court in Tehran upheld the controversial death sentence against Jamshid Sharmat and is still doing so. The corresponding measure for enforcement are to be initiated as soon as the competent court has been informed. So he can die at any time. He could even be dead when I'm filming this video. And his daughter sees it as a response to sanctions imposed by the EU, UK, and US that time on individuals in the regime and on a cell phone operator. And she still thinks the sanctions are insufficient, so more sanctions would be needed. And the human rights organization Amnesty International was also appalled by the confirmation of the death sentence and commented on the case on Twitter. Judgments are officially pronounced by judges and reviewed by supposedly Supreme Court. Unofficially, however, they are commanded by the Revolutionary Guard Secret Service. And this reports to the spiritual head of the Islamic Republic, that is Ali Khamenei. Shamat was reportedly kidnapped by Iranian intelligence on a trip to Dubai in the summer of 2020 and taken to Iran, as I said. And after almost a year in solitary confinement, he was held responsible for a terrorist attack in a mock trial in February and forced to confess under torture. The court also charged him with cooperation with foreign secret services. And nobody could confirm these allegations. His family has always denied the allegations. And the death penalty in Iran is usually carried out by hanging. The regime has already shown in the past that Tehran is serious about its threats against EU citizens of Iranian origin. In 2011, it carried out a death sentence against an Iranian and Dutch citizen, Sarah Bahrami. And earlier this year, it executed British-Iranian politician Ali Reza Akbari, as I said. And several EU citizens are currently still in the regime's prisons, such as Nahid Tagavi from Cologne. The regime usually accuses them of espionage, for example, for the political enemy Israel. Like Jamshid Shamat, the detainees are officially dual nationals. Legally, Iran treats dual nationals like Iranians and denies them access to foreign ambassadors, for example. But in the case of Shamat, his daughter says her father has only one passport, the German one. He came to Germany at the age of 7, does not recognize the Islamic Republic, and no longer has any papers. She does not want to bow to the regime which forbids relinquishing Iranian citizenship and does not recognize foreign citizenship. And the mock trials usually take place after the accused have been forced to confess in solitary confinement and under physical torture. Although the mock trials are often broadcast on state television, relatives or independent observers have no access to the courtroom. The mock trials are then carried out according to a precise plan for broadcast on the regime's propaganda television. Some of the trials are scripted. That is said by Gilda Sahibi, a political scientist and Iran expert. And if someone says they don't want to say something, they keep going until they agree to say it. Typically, protesters are accused of war against God or depravity on earth, charges based on the Islamic Republic's interpretation of Islam. According to the law of the Islamic regime, the penalty is the death penalty or at least long prison terms. The regime often cites the alleged murder of one or even several Bash as justification for its propaganda in the West. The regime generally does not allow witnesses. There is often no evidence to support the accusation against the accused. The regime simply considers a scenario and then implements it in its indictment. In some cases, alleged passers-by have been called to the witness stand in recent months to prove the alleged guilt of the accused. But these aren't witnesses, they were clerics or Bash militias. The accused do not have access to free lawyers. According to the law of the Islamic Republic, there is a right to a lawyer, but that was simply overridden like many others. The accused could only choose a defense lawyer provided by the regime from a list. However, he does not represent their interests, but those of the regime. Judgments are officially declared by judges in the courts and are reviewed by what appears to be a Supreme Court. One of the most famous judges, also known as the Judge of Death, is Abolghasem Salavati. You don't even know if he's a lawyer. It's not clear if he ever did any legal training. And it is the same with other judges there. Unofficially, the judges are commanded by the Revolutionary Guard Secret Service, as I said, and the Revolutionary Guard is subordinate to the spiritual leader of the Islamic Republic, Ali Khamenei, and they give the judges instructions about the prisoners. As I said, several European nationals are currently still detained in Iran, many of whom also have Iranian passports because they can't get rid of them. Iran treats dual nationals legally as Iranians, and critics accuse Tehran of holding foreign nationals as political hostages. Iran denies the allegations and usually justifies the arrests with allegations of espionage, which are completely out of thin air and nothing else. But that is the one of the few cases where I'm pro dual nationalities, because if the country of origin doesn't allow them to give up their nationality, but we have discussions in Germany at the moment to give many more people a second passport, and that's nothing I'm for. The passport and your nationality is something very serious, and you can't just do it like shopping them. I say you have to decide for one country whose national you are. In the But there are a few cases where the countries they are coming from don't allow you to give up that passport, like Iran. It's not very democratic. And so those are the rare cases where I don't mind people having two passports, but only in these cases. But in case of Iran, and we don't have to talk about law or holding up international law, the sanctions are absolutely correct against Iran, and they need to be even more sanctions in the future, as long as they don't stop. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.